I'm Rocky Moon. I'm here today with Commissioner Scott of the National Engineering League. And Commissioner Scott, can you tell me a little bit about yourself and what you bring to engineering?
Well, basically, I'm from Newport News, Virginia. I'm a 2004 graduate from Old Dominion University. I've been in the engineering profession for about 20 years.
What is engineering to you, and what engineering environments have you worked in?
Engineering to me is basically problem solving. We got different type of environments out here with different problems. But a lot of people just don't know how to go systematically as far as solving problems. A lot of times we wonder why we're in school learning about math and science and communication and English. Well, they're all problem solving tools that we use in the industry to solve problems. Problems happen every day, they're not going anywhere, so we need qualified professionals to solve the problems. So any kids that want to know, hey, mom and dad, teachers, why do I need to be in school? Why do I need to be learning about math and science? Because they're actually tools that are going to help you solve problems in the industry and help make life better for everyone. A lot of products come from engineers, scientists. They're designing solutions to problems, and you got to be making sure you're doing it the right way. Planes need to be flying in the sky, not falling, not crashing. Trains need to go from point A to point B. Automobiles need to be safe. So we need to make sure we got qualified individuals that are designing these products and coming up with better ways to do things.
Why should a young student consider the field of engineering?
Well, a young person should definitely consider the field of engineering, not just engineering, but science-related careers because A, it allows you to be creative. We can use our creativity to come up with new ways to do things, not only from a cost standpoint, but we need to design products that are going to just enhance our overall life. So why should kids get interested in engineering? Sounds kind of boring. Math sounds kind of boring sometimes. Calculus, science. But look, everything out here is a result of science, math, engineering, communication, teams working together to make a product that we can use in our everyday life. So if you like to be creative, you like to come up with new ways of doing things, or you're typically a problem solver, you might want to look at a career of engineering. Don't look at math or science just as, oh, I'm a nerd, or this is something boring, or my mom's making me do homework. Math and science, if you have a good understanding of math and science, they can turn into very lucrative careers, challenging careers, where you're on the cutting edge of technology and being innovative and making things better out here.
What classes in K-12 prepare you most for success in collegiate engineering?
Well, I would say algebra was the foundation for me. I liked algebra. It seemed like it was kind of neat because you had words and numbers put together and you're trying to solve for an equation. And it boosted my confidence once I figured out, hey, I knew how to solve for X. So I went home telling my mom, hey, do you know what X means? She was like, what are you talking about? So I showed her basic equations, and little did I know would be the basic foundation for all of my upper advanced math levels, calculus. People think that calculus is difficult, but it's really a combination of algebra, geometry, trigonometry, all the maths you learn put together in one in order to solve more complex problems. So I would say calculus was definitely the course that prepared me for what I'm doing now as an engineer. But I would also say communication in English, because if you can't communicate effectively in a team environment, then you're not going to be able to solve problems collectively as a group. So yes, we're math and science oriented, technical people, but also understand how to communicate effectively because you're going to have to be able to do that in the real world.
So what do you do when things don't work out the first time as you expected?
Well, that's interesting because things don't always work out like they should. I think the challenge of being an engineer is to get together with your team if you're working on a team, reevaluate the situation, look at the small details to figure out what's going on. Oftentimes we can trace it back to a communication problem. Someone thought they heard something and maybe they didn't, and that's where things get off. I know a lot of times in industry, a lot of quality issues happen because someone thought that maybe they read a spec improperly, or it's a new person working on a manufacturing line and process just isn't what we thought it was originally and got things out of control. So sometimes going back, taking a step back and then reevaluating what your engineering blueprints may be, or are team members properly trained sometimes, and making sure everyone's on the same accord. That'll solve your problem most of the time.
So how important is the ability to communicate in the engineering profession?
Well, the ability to communicate in the engineering profession is tremendous, all right? One thing you got to realize is that you may have different people from different backgrounds working in a group, different languages, different ethnicities, different levels of your career. You might have a person that's fresh out of college and also a person that's been a 20-year expert in aeronautic space industry. So how they're going to communicate and how they're going to make sure that everyone on the team understands what the objective is and everyone is collectively trying to solve the problem together. So it would help if you could students to be able to get understanding or basic fundamentals of different languages, Spanish, Chinese, whatever it is, because it's a global economy out here and you never know where you're going to end up working at. You're not just competing with students that are in the same city that you're in or in the same school. It's a global economy. I know on my team I work with people from India, one guy from Japan, and one from Hong Kong, I think. So you got to realize that diversity is needed in products. You don't just want to have a one-sided or one person to think about all the components of a particular product or service. It's good to have a diverse thought. Diversity just doesn't come in the form of black or white or male or female. It's diverse mindsets, diverse thoughts. So if you can put different components of diverse thoughts together, you have a better product in the long run.
So from your 20 plus years of experience, what is the main source of product failure or things not working as they should?
Well, we kind of hit on this earlier, but people communicating effectively. I mean, it sounds like a cliche, but it happens sometimes. It does not happen sometimes. I think on the Challenger incident in NASA when it blew up in 1986, I actually knew a couple of guys that were working with that project, and they said the major source was lack of communication. I think some engineers had communicated the issue with the O-rings, the mission control didn't listen, and we saw what happened. So it was pretty unfortunate. Fresh out of college, I had a situation where an employee was killed. He was electrocuted in a plant because procedures weren't followed. So that's one major catastrophe. It was a human catastrophe also that I can think of, that if things were communicated more properly and there were procedures were followed the way they should have been, maybe people's lives will still be here. So as an engineer, it's an ethical dilemma for people to, sometimes they want to rush a process or not do it the right way, but you got to keep it in the back of your mind that people's lives are in jeopardy here and they're dependent on us. We're the first line of defense to ensure that their safety is there. So.
Awesome. So what's your motivation for starting the National Engineering League?
Well, it's interesting. I've been doing motivational speaking and going around the high schools talking to kids, trying to figure out what they really like to do since I was around 18 or 19. When I got out of high school, I actually had a full academic scholarship. It was a CDEP scholarship, which stood for Cooperative Developmental Engineering Program. It paid for everything up to PhD. And that's kind of one thing I wanted to touch on also when things don't go quite right. I was afforded the scholarship. I wasn't able to take advantage of it, but I still figured out how I was going to get through college and get my degree, and I got it. So I'm telling everyone, if things don't quite go right for you all the time, or you feel like things are in your corner, that's life sometimes. You got to pull your pants up, pull your boots up, and get back out there and make it happen. So I'm challenging everyone, if you get adversity in your life that you probably feel like it may not be fair, it's not an excuse. You can still be successful. And I'm challenging you to be successful. So as I went around to different schools talking to kids about what they really wanted to do with their life and what's their purpose, often I would get kids saying, hey, I would like to be a basketball player or a football player, or you want to be a rock star, which are cool careers. Now, I would encourage everyone to follow their passion. If you feel like that's what your purpose is, go for it. You probably can make it. But it's also good to have backup plans as well. So I felt like careers in math and science were good alternatives, and we should look at them more. So I really started the National Engineering League up because I wanted to encourage kids to pursue careers in math and science. I also wanted them to prepare properly for these careers as far as, understanding the fundamentals of math and science, developing good communication skills. And also I wanted to prepare the parents to be able to prepare their kids for these type of careers. A lot of parents don't know what engineering is. They never heard of it. A lot of people think an engineer is a person that's on a train pulling the cord, like the conductor. That's not the case. There's several types of engineers. So mechanical engineers, electrical engineers, civil engineers, industrial engineers. Pretty much all products and services out here have some type of engineer in the background, ensuring that the product works properly. So, but pretty much I started the National Engineering League up because I wanted to make sure that kids and parents knew what engineering was and they can take advantage of the benefits that come in a career such as this.
So, Corey, what impact has engineering had on your life?
Well, look, I started off in downtown Newport News, Virginia, 19th and Jefferson Avenue. Okay, the environment was a little challenging. A lot of the kids there didn't have fathers, so we didn't have that guidance that we wish we could have had. A lot of guidance came from teachers, and I had a great mom. So I saw math and science as a way to get out of that environment because I was good in math, I was good at science, and I made not all A's all the time, but A's and B's. And I had teachers that encouraged me. They said, "Hey, Corey, you're a pretty sharp student." I said, "Okay, so what does that equate to long term?" They said, "Well, you can go to school and you can, be an engineer, or you can be a scientist or astronaut, something like that, or the typical doctor and lawyer." But I was always a creative type person, so it seemed like the math and science, the stuff we were learning in class, was kind of geared towards the way I thought about things, and I tried to learn how to solve problems at an early age. So pretty much math and science prepared me and gave me the opportunity to prepare for a career in engineering, take advantage of it. And since then, I successfully graduated from college, got a bachelor's degree, went on to get a master's, working on a PhD right now. So I should have that in probably like a year or so. But I use my brain and my academics and my love for math and science to literally take me from living in projects to going to college and being a middle class citizen in the United States. And hopefully I'll be in the upper echelon with the million and billionaires. But no matter how far I get, I'm always going to give back. There are other Corey Scotts out there that may be living in certain environments or dealing with the same type of challenges that I had. And I'm telling everyone, you can do it. If I did it, you can do it. But don't be afraid to use math and science or any other type of education to get where you're going. Like a lot of times kids pick on other kids because they're saying, "Hey, you're a nerd," or you're just trying to be a nerd in school or something like that. Hey, nerds get paid. Not to say that Bill Gates is a nerd, but he's the second highest wealthiest person in the United States now, and it came from math and science. He revolutionized the whole computer industry as far as saving memory and be able to word process in a more efficient manner. So be yourself. I'm challenging everyone to be themselves. Don't try to fit in with the crowd and be like everyone else. Be yourself. I decided to call myself Commissioner Scott because I want to be a leader in promoting the field of engineering and science to the world, not just in the United States, to the whole world, and hopefully make kids feel like it's comfortable to be themselves. And if you're good at math and science, it's no problem with that because guess what? Society can't run without us, okay? So prepare yourself if you want to be a car designer, an aerospace engineer, you want to design apps, you want to come up with a new way of talking to robots, whatever you want to do, you can do it. And math and science can open the way for you to be able to do that.
That's great. You mentioned other Corey Scotts out there, and that you want to see better for them. Why do you want others to follow you into the field of engineering?
Well, I feel like there aren't enough technical professionals out there, period, no matter how you look. I know particularly there are not a lot of African American engineers, but let's get away from the race, all right? There are not enough qualified American engineers, period, I think. So we also got to make sure that we're competing and being able to protect our environment from disasters as far as foreign threats from military. So we got to have the competitive edge over people, and we got to have the latest and greatest technologies. Working in the Department of Defense, I've learned a lot about what we need to do to protect our nation. So point being is we have to be prepared for whatever could happen. That's what a good engineer does. We also got to look in the future as far as our students. How are we preparing them to be able to compete in the global market? Like I said previously, it's not just about us in the United States competing with each other. It's a global society, a global business world, a global market. And we need to prepare our kids to be able to compete, period. And, I had some unique challenges trying to come out the projects, come to middle America. And so there are other kids that have the same issues and worse. I'm not saying I had the worst issues ever, but there were challenges. But I'm telling you, no matter what your situation is, you can do it. And if there's anything that I can do to create opportunities, resources for you to be able to have the same competitive edge that other kids have, or in different societies or countries or different neighborhoods, then I would like to be able to bring those resources to those kids that want to be able to do the same thing. So.
Awesome, thank you. I think the last question we have for you today: how important is diversity in engineering?
I think diversity is important not only in engineering but everywhere. We live in this society let's call it Earth. All right. It's interesting when NASA astronauts go into outer space and they look out the window and they see a ball, a blue ball, just rotating and turning. We don't see races. We don't see countries. We don't see any of that. We don't see diseases. We don't see what your wealth is. Any stuff like that. All we see is a round ball turning around. So point being is the Earth is diverse, societies are diverse, and we affect each other. So we need to work together, work well together, and let's try to figure out what type of problems need to be solved from a global perspective, so we can all win instead of just being in silos. So
Thank you so much for your time, Commissioner Scott. We look forward to his 2019 collegiate speaking tour and to seeing what impact the National Engineering League can make.